Now that The Wire has hit its last episode, is he planning on going back to a book or television, or do you know?
He's in post-production on a 7-hour miniseries about the war in Iraq, based on a book by Evan Wright, who's a Rolling Stone reporter embedded with some of the first Marines into Baghdad. It was called Generation Kill. They shot it in Africa last year from June through December, using different parts of Africa to fake different parts of Iraq. And for example, the Maputo in Mozambique was where they did a lot of the Baghdad shooting, and he has been in post-production, which is very long and complicated ever since then. In any given week, he's either in New York, LA, or London working on the post-production, and that should be on the air this July.
So he's always moving on to a new project too, right?
The television thing, it's interesting. I mean, I think David wants to write books again, and I would be very supportive of that. But he's been given these really great opportunities in television. And I think one of the things, again, and this is part of what drew me to writing this book, being a showrunner is actually a very specific set of talents. You have to do a lot of things well. And my husband does them. He has a lot of, and a lot of these talents have nothing to do with having been one of the best reporters at the Baltimore Sun. So people see this guy, and he used to be a reporter at the Baltimore Sun, and now he's running a television show, and they sort of think that's the transition. But there had to be other things he did. There were things he had to learn about the visual side of television.
And that would actually be difficult, because now that he knows them, now to use them, I think would be very difficult to set them aside.
The weirdest thing about television to me is that you have to be an absolute perfectionist until the moment you really don't.
Okay.
And so you fight and you fight and you fight and you fight to get it exactly the way you want it. But then there comes a moment where it's like, you know what? It's too expensive. We've lost the light. It's too many scenes in 1 hour. The logistics are crazy. So you fight for the ideal until the last moment where you have to know exactly where to compromise. And it requires a taste for conflict, which is utterly beyond me. I don't want to fight that much in a day, and there's so many battles, and not nasty fights, not angry fights, but just over and over. There's crisis after crisis after crisis.
It does seem to be a crisis-driven thing, although the process you describe is not hugely different maybe than letting a book go. It's just more dramatic.
Yeah,
you know, the one thing I didn't get a chance to ask you about, since we're running out of time, is your short story career. You are a writer, a novelist, as you said, with 13 books, but you have written a ton of short stories and edited this anthology I have on the table here called Baltimore Noir. What is it that gets you going with a short story? Why do you like them?
It's kind of like a little game, because every time I write a short story, it's because someone has emailed me or called me and said, will you write a short story about blank? The blanks have been as varied as cocaine, golf, poker, Dublin, women in jealousy, all over the map. And there's something about that. There's a level of play about it that I really like, which is, okay, I think I can. And the other thing I love about short stories is I've found what I call a third voice. I have the standalones that are one thing. I have the test novels that are another thing. The short stories are very dark but very funny and really out there, and much darker even than the standalones, and yet they crack me up. I mean, I always, there's a nastiness in them.
Ooh, the bad lore comes out.
Yes, really. So I think I've probably written almost 20 short stories altogether. I have a collection coming out this fall that will collect, I believe it's 15 stories, a profile of Tess Monahan as written by Laura Lippman, which is something I did for a pamphlet, and a never before published novella called Scratch a Woman, which is about a single mother who figures out that being a high-priced call girl is probably one of the better jobs she can find in the suburbs.
Well, your timing was excellent for doing that. But that's a novella you said you actually have had germinating for a long time. But
since 2001.
So how nice that you found space for it.
It was nice, actually. I was really glad I finally got a chance to write it.
Well, it seems to me that we've only barely tapped the surface of both your writing career and also, your future projects. But I'm always fascinated to catch up with you because there's always something new and interesting going on. Do you know my most vivid memory of you, I'm going to close with this, is that you had been here and you were in a very transitional moment in your life,
yes.
personally and professionally. We had a long talk about it. And not too long after that, I ran into you at a mystery conference in England. I think it was in Manchester.
Yes.
And the picture I came away with that made me think your life was going to turn really well for you, because you were kind of in despair at that point about how it was all going to go, is that you and David Simon, now your husband, and Anthony Bourdain were all three. You're all tall. So, you have to remember I'm looking up at you because I'm so short. And the three of you were all kind of leaning against a wall, and there was like a circle around you of energy. And I thought, there's Laura. She has stepped inside some new place, and I'll be really interested to see where you go. And that was quite a few years ago.
It was probably about 6 months later, I think.
It was.
That it changed that quickly, because
Yep.
I remember very clearly the time you're talking about, and it was a seminal period in my life.
It was, but I just knew when I saw you there for that moment, there was a little thing that went on, and I said, it's all going to be okay. So I was really pleased about it. I've never had a chance to tell you that, so.
I love that.
Me too. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for joining us on this episode of our program.